Good morning or good evening, depending from wherever you're joining us today. And welcome to today's webinar on the success story of the bug bounty program that Swiss Post launched together with YesWeHack. My name is Tanya Koenig, and I'm very pleased to be guiding you throughout the next 1.5 hours. And it's great that you're with us. So what's on the agenda today? We'll first hear 3 short presentations to learn more about YesWeHack, about Swiss Post cybersecurity strategy and the operational aspects of the bug bounty program. And we'll end the webinar with the Q&A session. And of course, we welcome your questions. So you can ask them via the chat function on Zoom, and I'll be happy to take those in at the end of the webinar. And our 3 speakers of the day are Marcel Zumbühl, Sandro, Nafzger, and Rodolphe, Harand. And I asked them, yes, to turn on their cameras. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good morning, Tanya.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good day.
Good morning, everyone.
Great. So let me say a few words about each one of them. Let's start with Marcel Zumbühl. He has been the Chief Information Security Officer of Swiss Post Group since August 2018. He has a master's degree in computer science with a minor in business administration from the University of Bern. And after his studies, he worked in Switzerland and abroad for several companies, including Accenture, Swisscom, and Credit Suisse. Maybe I ask everyone to turn their mics off again, just the speakers, and then turn it on when you're on. Just the mics is fine. Okay. Then Marcel, he's also a guest lecturer for risk management and risk communication at ETH Zurich and at Hochschule Luzern, and he's the co-president of the Information Security Society Switzerland since last year. Then Sandro Nafzger, he's the lead of bug bounty at Swiss Post. He's an expert on that topic as well as on crowdsourced cybersecurity in Switzerland. He helps Swiss organizations to take their IT security to the next level, as well as making their digital transformation a success. He has led the public intrusion test for e-voting, which was the first large bug bounty program in Switzerland, and the very first in the world that tested an online voting system. He also built the group-wide bug bounty program at Swiss Post. And before we hear from Marcel and Sandro, we'll hear from Rodolphe Harand. He's the managing director of YesWeHack. And before he worked, he's actually spent 10 years as partner at Lexi, the very first independent cyber consulting firm, where he launched and co-directed CERT Lexi, the first French anti-cybercrime organization operating in 3 main continents. And he was also director at Gartner France for the technology sector before joining YesWeHack. And with this, actually, I leave the floor to you, Rodolphe. I would say the virtual stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Tanya. Thank you for the kind introduction. So hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. It's a great pleasure to see so many of you connected today, especially in this context where we already spend most of our time in video conferences. So as Tanya said, I'm Rodolphe, managing director at YesWeHack. And before giving the floor to the Swiss Post, I'd like to introduce in a few words our company. So YesWeHack is a global bug bounty and vulnerability disclosure platform. Global in the sense that we serve client organizations across the globe, and we do that through a global community of researchers that represent more than 130 different nationalities to date. The platform was founded in 2013, and we are to date also the first European bug bounty platform, the first platform in terms of European cybersecurity researchers community, that is the number of European researchers registered and verified on the platform, and also the leading platform in terms of the number of programs we manage for European-based organization, that is more than 400 programs to date with clients across all industries. So YesWeHack creation started with an observation. Security teams are more and more seeing themselves caught in what we can call a perfect storm. First, we have this backdrop of booming attacks with booming costs, including now direct financial sanctions by authorities and regulators. But I guess this is no breaking news for anyone. More importantly, we also have this acceleration of the so-called digital transformation, which in turn radically transforms the way IT is being designed, developed, delivered, maintained. So whether it's about cloud, APIs, data, IoT, 5G, DevOps, shifting left, you name it, all those combined trends lead to one thing, and that is a tremendous and continuous expansion of your IT attack surface. So simply speaking, how agile you are as an organization. Every organization pulls more code on a quicker basis and therefore creates more and more vulnerabilities everywhere. And this happens in a context of a perennial talent shortage of cybersecurity skills with no improvement in sight. Last but not least, security teams have to face these situations with traditional legacy solutions that are inherently limited. Very quickly, on one hand, you have scanning tools, which lack the human expertise that vulnerability testing requires. And on the other hand, pen testing, which is not scalable by essence. So whatever they are, traditional testing solutions cannot keep pace with the velocity of modern IT and the complexity of today's threats. And there comes crowdsourced security. Crowdsourced security delivers the operational agility organizations need to bridge that gap between modern IT on one hand and their audit practices on the other hand. While with pen testing, organizations have a couple of consultants for a couple of weeks every 6 or 12 months. With Bug Bounty, they can tap into this unlimited pool of skill sets, launch tests as often as they want in just a few clicks, and run them as long as they want. Plus, they pay only for results. And they can also empower their own internal IT teams and have them actually learn and improve their skills from the crowd. And finally, they can leverage the data created by the model and integrate this data in their workflow, and then start delivering automation at scale. As our mission as a bug bounty platform is to enable client organizations to run bug bounty programs by inviting cybersecurity researchers to discover and report vulnerabilities on targeted scopes and according to very strict rules, and to financially reward these researchers for the impact and the quality of the discovered vulnerabilities, all basing on a predefined bounties grid. So the rules of each program specify the scopes that can be targeted, like an URL, a domain, an IP, an API, whatever. The categories of vulnerabilities that can be tested and reported, I mean the vulnerabilities that are actually eligible to a bounty, the types of tests that are prohibited, how the bugs would be rewarded basing on their severity, and in general, anything researchers cannot or cannot do, and any information they need to know before running their tests. On our side, our dedicated in-house triage team handles each submission, eliminates duplicates, false positives, retest vulnerability, reset the severity, interact with the researcher if needed, and validate the report, and then only transfer the report to the client's team. And finally, our platform also provides all the legal compliance and security guarantees our clients need to run those programs with trust. So just to conclude, this crowdsourced approach to security we just outlined very quickly is gaining more and more traction across all industries, all regions, just as we mentioned before. But for the vast majority of security leaders that we discuss on a daily basis, the question is not longer so much whether they are going to launch a bug bounty initiative or not, but rather when they're going to start it. And indeed, bug bounty is a still new topic for most of you and still raise a lot of questions like, am I ready to launch a program? What does it mean to be ready to launch a program actually? How do I budget for the initiative? Where should I start? What scope should I target first? What will be the impact on my internal resource, processes, team, etc.? where exactly stops the role of the platform and starts my role in terms of managing the programs and so on. And to answer all these questions, we invited today one of our clients to share their own journey and to let you benefit from what they learn through the experience. And with that, Marcel, I will give you the floor. Thank you.
Great, and thank you very much, Rodolphe. Then let's go on with Marcel.
Thank you very much. And so you should see my slides now.
Yes.
So good day. Thank you very much for spending the time with us, looking into our bug bounty program. You know how important security and trust is to your customers, to our customers. Security and trust is a concept. It's an image that people build up on over time. It's an image that they keep in the back of their mind when they think about brands, and it's built on experience. It builds on experience, but it can also deteriorate if there is a bad experience with a brand. With this in mind, we started over 160 years ago as the Swiss Post services, starting with mail, parcels, letters. We're the ones that bring love letters to people across Switzerland, but it doesn't stop there. We're also one of the leading mobility services in Switzerland. With that,
sorry, we don't see your face. Could you turn your camera on?
Okay, let me see how I can do that. Okay.
Ah, yes, perfect. Yes, there you are.
Is that?
Yes.
Okay, it must have been Zoom. Okay. Good. My face still there?
Yes, you can go on.
Okay, good. So, with the logistics in Switzerland, we also do mobility services, both for the postal cars, so a public transport, but we also started with our platforms for bike sharing. We're one of the biggest car fleets in Switzerland. We're also a bank. Swiss Post has Post Finance as one of the critical banks in Switzerland. So there's a critical infrastructure there as well. And we're also moving into communication services. As Sandro mentioned before, we're one of the providers for the e-voting system in Switzerland and one of the first e-voting systems in the globe. We're also moving into healthcare, providing platforms for digital health, and we're also one of the leading document processing companies in the world, currently ranking 2. So, and if you ask our customers, do you trust Swiss Post? The question gets reduced to, who do I know at Swiss Post? Who are the faces? People turn to the physical aspects, to our products in the physical world, and the face of the people that deliver parcels and letters every day, like the young gentleman to the left side, spring up to mind. And that's, do I trust this guy? Do I trust Swiss Post? That kind of gets to be the same question. Now, what is the image that I get in the digital space? Do I trust a patient dossier? Do I trust the electronic voting service of Swiss Post? Do I trust digital banking? What is the image I get there? How do I control the security and the trust of these products as a customer? What is my perceived security? Am I lost? Is it only the face of these services, or is there more that I can build the trust upon? If I look behind the screen, and we shall see in the next couple of slides, we started with this question: how do I build trust in a digital space? What are the images? How do I get control as a customer on the security of my services? How can I participate? And that's what led us to participative security. So behind the screen, this is the front. If I look into the security of the past, I'll get that. We have industries with heightened risk, namely financial services, but also since COVID, we have logistic services who are under pressure from attacks, both phishing, but also blackmailing, ransom, whatnot, and also communication services, especially in the domain of healthcare. You've seen attacks against hospitals, you've seen attacks against patient dossiers across the world. So we, when we look at the at our industries, these are the three industries that are most predominant on the pressure. If you look inside us, we're 1,200 employees in IT. 50 to 60 of them are in cybersecurity. We have a 7x24 security operations center and a certified security. The current trends that we see on the attacks, obviously ransom, obviously identity theft, and online fraud. And just on the right-hand side, you see what we're dealing every month over month. We talked about the image of who do you trust and who are these people behind the screens, and that would be us here. Obviously, when we spoke about having 60 people, and we look at this image, it's a bit less than 60. But as you know, COVID doesn't allow us to shoot new pictures. So this is our team of teams. This is the 60 people that work every day for the security of Swiss Post behind the screens. Security is part of our product lifecycle. As mentioned, it starts with our customers and it ends with our customers. The perceived security of our products is what we strive for. So we try to get the security expectations of our customers on the market, turn that into the concepts of security that we have within our products. And in IT, we develop the products likewise. Of course, we do penetration testing. We do all sorts of security testing along as we develop and ship. But we've also started to add a new part of it to it, and that is our continuous bug bounty program. Once the development is done, once a product gets into the operations, our bug bounty program kicks in and stays with it, especially on the online platforms. So everything we see, every bug that we see gets added into our risk maps, gets reported back to operation and to developer teams, and it helps us to make security not a status, but a continuous process. Security is never finished. Security is a process. It's an ongoing process, and that's one of the predominant concepts here. Of course, we go back to our customers with our risk communication. If you want, if you care, on www.post.ch, you will find our brochure on product security. So if you're a customer and you're interested in what we put into the individual products, you will find a description of how robust our products are, what they can, what they can't do from a risk perspective and the security perspective. And we like to learn from using our customers if that hits the right level. If your perceived security is what you want, or if there's something missing. And then it goes back into the circle. I don't need to tell you that cyber attacks have risen over time. As actually, that's at least our experience looking past the last past years, especially the year when e-commerce turned out to be predominant in logistics. We've seen a lot of attacks going against our customers, but also against companies in the field. Cyber risk has also made it to be a mainstream risk for boards. So we have now boards who question the operations and in fact the whole company of where do we stand in terms of security. They need to see where we are. They need to see if we have just the right mitigation strategy to counter the risk and to keep the risk at the level where we're confident with. More and more we see critical vulnerabilities on the market in our products. And we had this feeling that penetration tests are good and fine, but they're not the end of the story. There's something missing, and there's every now and then a critical vulnerability that slips and finds its way into operations. How do we find these vulnerabilities in live systems? Another thing that we saw is our risk evaluations. We have a quantified risk map in cybersecurity, and the risks, our risk perception is based on our or was based on our penetration test findings. What we learned when we turned out bug bounty is that about half of the risks we hadn't seen before. Risks that were in the business logic, for example, would never show up in a penetration test. So when we looked at our cybersecurity risk, we only saw half of the picture, and we now see the other side. And again, it's all about transparency. It's all about participative security. It's all about talking to customers and tell them where we stand in terms of security. For those of you who don't know what a bug bounty program is, simple. We open ourselves to ethical hackers who find vulnerabilities, bugs, and we pay them a bounty. It doesn't stop there. Of course, there is conditions to how you can cooperate with us as an ethical hacker. We don't only want to learn about the vulnerability, we want you also to help us fixing it. So it's a process where we join forces. Just before I turn back to this community aspect, this is a snapshot of our risk map, and that's exactly what I was mentioning before. Before we had bug bounty, I just take two examples of our products. Product A, and both of them are online services. We had this product on pretty much in the center of our risk map, and then we switched on bug bounty, and we found out that the product was way up here. There was a lot that we hadn't seen before, and this was a product we were absolutely sure that we've seen everything with pen testing. And now with the work of the ethical hackers, and thanks to the interaction between the communities, we actually press the risk down to here. The same goes for product B, where we started down here. We were pretty sure that this product is fine in terms of security, but it wasn't. It was in the middle of our field, and now we pushed it all the way down to the bottom. In the 20 years that I work in cybersecurity, I've never seen these drastic changes in risks as I've seen in the past year with this with adding bug bounty to our security methods. In essence, what we are looking for is participative security. Coming back to, do I really trust online services? Where is the risk of a digital service? How can I participate? Who can participate on security on my behalf? I think we found an approach where we can invite communities both internally as well as externally to the playing field. Especially when we have services that go to a broad audience, like electronic voting or digital health platforms, we need somebody to take take the place of the grand public and really challenge the company and do it for example, for the citizens. It's what other companies call citizen shield. Ethical hackers stand in for the public and challenge the company and help the company find out that the last vulnerabilities that might be in a product, and together with the internal security committee to actually fix it and to make security an ongoing process. And that's just how we started. Back in 2019, we were one of the first suppliers for electronic voting. That was in 2018 when we started, and we knew that one of the conditions to launch the service in Switzerland was that we had to undergo a public intrusion test. With this, we set up a legal safe harbor because, as you know, hacking is illegal. You need to set a boundary within which hacking gets a legal topic. And in 2019, we run the public intrusion test for e-voting, and I must say, when I talked to our developers and talked about with our security teams, they thought it was fun because you had this challenge. You had the gamification of security, sort of, where you had the ethical hackers, the security guys, the developers working together to find errors, to fix them in an everyday task. When the public intrusion test was over, we looked over our shoulders and thought, like, this was fun. So why can't we do that for other online services? We did a small proof of concept with just 8 online services. We were pretty sure that they were good because we had them penetration tested over and over again. So we didn't expect too many things to come out. And within hours, we found 50 errors, 50 bugs. We didn't expect that. We had a small treasure trove for our bounties, and literally the money was gone in 6 hours. And that's when we realized the potential of this service. We went on and launched our private bug bounty program in 2020. That's literally a year ago that we announced that publicly, and we've now gone public in April with opening up these online services that have been tested in the private bug bounty program to the large audience. So we found a way to make security a participative experience, to join forces, to make sure that security is a process. We start to talk about vulnerabilities. We start to talk that, yes, there are security issues, but it's not the end of the world. You can fix them, you can go forward. And that, in essence, is what digital trust is all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcel, for those interesting insights. And of course, we want to dig a bit deeper into the topic in our Q&A session later. Therefore, I ask our audience, of course, to also send in your questions that you have to all the speakers. I already see that a few questions are coming in, some interesting ones. So thank you very much for that already. Thank you very much, Marcel. And we move over to the next and last presentation before we go into the Q&A. So Sandro, the floor is yours.
Hi everybody, my name is Sandro Nafzger and I have the pleasure to lead and build the group-wide bug bounty program of Swiss Post since day one, as Marcel just explained. You probably all know that picture, which in my opinion applies perfectly to what happens when you start a bug bounty program. What that is, I want to talk with you a little bit more in detail and really deep inside the bug bounty program of Swiss Post, and look back to 2019, how it all started. Marcel was already talking about that. The public intrusion test of e-voting was over. that was our first contact with ethical hackers, and we asked ourselves, hey, could not Swiss Post as a whole profit from a bug bounty program? As Swiss does, we started an intensive research. We put together an interdisciplinary team of a lawyer, of security experts, of a communication guy, of a project manager. We were like interviewing people, talking to people, really doing a 360 research on the topic. After 4 months, we came to the conclusion, it looks really good, and that probably would be beneficial for Swiss Post. But what we did is a theoretical study, and we really need to try it out. That's what we did then. We set up a proof of concept where we tested 8 well-established systems of Swiss Post. It was mainly web applications that we tested. I think 2 mobile apps and also API. So we really tried to diversify a little bit to see how those systems react, because the only experience we had was with the e-voting systems, which is one of the most secure systems in the world, where you were not able to find too many bugs on the infrastructure. And so we really wanted to gain more experience and find more bugs. Because we didn't know what exactly will happen, we only invited 5 ethical hackers to start with, and the planned duration was 6 weeks. Bounty budget was 25,000 euros, and that led to a bounty grid between 50 and 5,000 euros, which you can see here. And maybe the first learning, when you set up a bug bounty grid, do not only consider the criticality of your application, do also consider the maturity of the application. Otherwise, that program can be become very expensive quickly. So we want to try it out in an easy and calm way. That's not exactly how it happened. I think none of us will forget that day, the Monday, 21st of October at 10 a.m. when we started the program. Only 30 minutes later, we received the first highly critical vulnerabilities. We were shocked. We couldn't believe it. How is that possible? Those applications are well established, go under constant penetration testing, are audited. What the hell is going on here? We have not been able to recover from our first shock. Those vulnerabilities were just coming in. At the end of the days, at the day after 14 hours, 17 bugs were reported, 4 high critical. And when I say high critical, it's really worst case scenarios that you can think of. 3 high, 9 medium, and 1 low. I called at 4 o'clock. I sent Marcel a text. I told him, look, I need to talk to you. And he was not amused because he had meetings back to back. And when he came, he's like, oh, what's up? And I was like, our test is over. I assume we have spent the whole budget that was planned for 6 weeks in only 6 hours. In my opinion, we have 2 options now. Either we finish the test, declare it as a high success, or we need more money. Then we had a closer look at the findings, and it was very obvious that quitting is not an option. The return on investment of those 25,000 euros that we have invested in bugs was so huge that there was just no other way than adding more budget to it and continuing with the test. We realized that we have many more critical vulnerabilities than we would ever expect. Exactly what Marcel showed before. With a bug bounty program, you only then get a realistic risk assessment that you don't have before. And the question for like 4 months while we did that study, the question is, do we need a bug bounty program? Within a couple of hours, the question shifted to how can we implement and finance the program ASAP. We also realized quickly that the first or the most bugs are found within the first 3 days. And always when you add new hunters, there are new bugs coming in. You can see that on the timeline of the bugs. At the first day, those are those 17 bugs. And then on the second and on the third day, we found other critical bugs. And then it got constant. And we added at the 31st of October, we added more hunters. And on the 6th of November, as well as around the 13th of November, those are those spikes. We then added 40 hunters, from which 11 reported findings. We ended the test a little bit earlier than planned, so we informed the hunters about that, and that's why you can also see at the end a peak of final submissions that came in. Within 5 weeks, we find 50 high and critical bugs. A total of 136 bugs were reported from 11 hunters. 16 bugs, and as I said, when we talk about critical bugs, this is really worst case scenarios that you can imagine. Those results have caused a lot of attention, a lot of awareness, and you can imagine those bugs were fixed very, very fast. Here you can see the dashboard. What's really fascinating is the average response time from only 1.5 hours, thanks to the amazing service of YesWeHack, who does the first level triage. We have spent all in all 100,000 euro, so 4 times more than what we have planned originally. And it was very obvious that this is just the way to go. When you receive reports like that, very concrete, it's not a hypothetical security issue somewhere that you were not able to prove, or you didn't have time, or you didn't have the skills. No, it's concrete. It's 4 steps. Do this, do that, do that, do that. And you can reproduce the finding within no time. You can pay out the hunter for his amazing work, and you can just go to the developer, put it on his table, and he knows exactly what to do. And people are able to exploit this to get unlimited money on their account, or to not pay services. With reports like that, you can be assured that from the developer to top management, everybody really understands what's going on and how critical such a bug bounty program is. The time we have today is very limited, and I would like to have a look at 2 success factors of our bug bounty program and how we established it. The first one is also here, it's people, it's the team, and key to a bug bounty program that's successful is that you really have top management support. The bug bounty program is not just another tool or procedure that you launch. It's a game changer. So you really need the support of your chief information security officer, or your CIO, or even the CEO, because of its disruptive character. And the easiest way to tap into the global community of ethical hackers is obviously with a managed bug bounty platform. YesWeHack is the winner of our global research and evaluation we did. Another key factor is the bug bounty management team. That's the person or the team, depending on your size, that builds the interface between the bug bounty platform, the ethical hacker community, and your internal IT organization. Because with a bug bounty program, you do nothing else than just connecting those 2 communities and establishing a dialogue where they work hand in hand together. At SwissPost, you can imagine behind each online service or product, there's a big team responsible for it. From each service that we're testing, we have a SPOC that is then receiving the ticket. Also, something very important is that from the very beginning, we integrated the YesWeHack platform into our vulnerability or our ticketing system. We're using a Jira internally. And with that, you really send the findings and insights directly from the hackers to the developers, which makes it ultra native for the IT team to work with. If you have a security operation team, it's really important to build the bug bounty program hand in hand with them, as we do. And because we don't only want to fix and profit from punctual findings and fix vulnerabilities one by one, which we obviously do, but we have realized that if we are able to consider one finding in a more holistic way, to really look at it in a profound and holistic way, we are able to leverage an exponential growth of insight and improvement. Example, at some point we found a critical vulnerability in an Apache platform. We fixed it, but because we were able to look at it in a holistic way, we realized, hey, at SwissPost, there are 10 other services using that library. So it's not only one vulnerability, it's actually 100 vulnerabilities that we were able to fix with that one insight. At SwissPost, we have our internal security communities called security champions. Those are the most security savvy developers we have that meet in a regular basis to exchange their know-how and also discuss findings and insights from the bug bounty program. Quick example, one of our ethical hackers is submitting a report, then Selim or somebody else from the YesWeHack team is doing the first level triage, validating the finding, sorting out all duplicates, making sure it's really valid and it's really beneficial for us. Then we take it over. We have somebody from our side then does a quality control. If we agree with the recommendation of YesWeHack, we will then import it in our tool in Jira, but only then because we want to only keep our organization busy with really stuff that brings benefit for us. And everything else is sorted out by YesWeHack. Then the ticket gets forwarded to information security, which has the whole overview about all vulnerabilities at SwissPost. And then we forward it to the SPOC of that online services, and then that team behind and the security champions take care of it. So that's the organization at SwissPost that we use to process hundreds of bugs in one of the largest organizations in Switzerland. But let there be no confusion. A bug bounty program is for everyone that has a system in place. You don't need an organization like that. That's just really the large scale version of it. Theoretically, if you're a developer, if you run an IT system, you can just start your bug bounty program. If you have a small IT team behind you that supports you, even better. But that really works for every budget, for every size, and for every complexity that you're dealing with. So the last thing I want to talk with you about is when we realized how powerful that tool is, that bug bounty program is, we were aware that we somehow need to control that power. If we just opened up that program too quick, we will receive hundreds, if not thousands of reports, and we will have no chance to deal with them and don't lose the fun at it. So we didn't want to overstress. A little bit stress is good, a little bit shaking is good, but we didn't want to overstress our organization. And that's how we came up with that 3-level incubator model. So every service that enters the bug bounty program gets into a custom incubator program. This is a private, small, time-limited bug bounty program with maybe 5, 10, 15, 20 hunters, relatively low bounties, and limited time. When we see that that application is really able to deal with that new situation outside their comfort zone, meaning they can deal with the vulnerabilities, they can fix them, they are fit to work in an agile environment, then we move them directly to the private main program, our continuous program, where around 500 hunters support us in making our products better. If we realize that application or that product is not able to deal with what's going to happen on the next level, that's no problem. We give them some time to do their homework, and whenever they want, they can come back. And in the private main program, we continuously improve the security of our products until we believe that we cannot find any more bugs in those products, and we really have achieved security excellence. And that's then when we move those products to public main program, the public bug bounty program, where theoretically all of the 23,000 hunters of YesWeHack have the possibility to find and to look for new bugs. What is really, really fascinating is to see that this model really works. So this is not theoretical stuff that we explain you here. You saw how many critical bugs we had when we did the proof of concept. During the private programs, there were so many security flaws with a high impact. And once we moved them to a public program, until today, there is not one single critical bug discovered. So it really means that in a private bug bounty program, continuously, you really reach almost perfect security maturity. And if not, you will then for sure realize. So in the case of Swiss Post, it's really about public scrutiny. We want to engage with the public and also build digital trust by being very transparent about how we deal with bugs, how we have understood that security is a process. In our opinion, this is number one in building up trust. Good. Quick summary to sum up that talk. Why Swiss Post is doing bug bounty, and in my opinion, you should too. You really bring your cybersecurity on a complete new level within a very short time. You can really build up digital trust. You shape tomorrow's culture. All that technical stuff is really fine, but the magic, in my opinion, that happens with a bug bounty program is the culture shift that you do. All of a sudden, you are bold, you're more collaborative, you're agile, you work in interdisciplinary teams. It's just a whole new way of working, because a bug bounty program is nothing else than open innovation for cybersecurity. The innovation capability within a company is just limited, and by opening up and by allowing motivated people to work with you, you really establish a whole new culture. We also see a very big shift in the role of information security. Information security is not just an important enabler, but really becomes the driver of digital transformation. Thank you very much, guys, and happy hunting, how we call it.
Great, thank you very much, Sandro. Very, very interesting there. I'm already convinced. Many questions are also coming in, so we are actually moving to that part. But before we go into the Q&A, I'd like to remind or actually tell our audience that there's a survey popping up on screen, should be popping up now. Yes, there's on the screen right now. So please fill it out if you can participate in that survey. You see there are 2 questions that you can participate. Do you perform penetration testing within your organization? Yes or no, and how often? Thank you very much for participating in that survey. And of course, your participation is still welcomed by sending in your questions for the Q&A now. And I'd like to welcome now Selim, should be on screen now as well. Selim, hi Selim.
Hello.
So he's the head of customer success at YesWeHack, and we're welcoming him because there might be some questions that are coming in that he can also answer. Great. Well, then let me first start with my questions and then I move to the audience ones. And I'd like to start with Marcel. So what approach did you take to convince the board that moving to a bug bounty program was the right move? And was it an easy sell?
So surprisingly, yes. I remember that when we started to talk about the voting system and the public intrusion test, we went to the board and explained that we don't only want to find vulnerabilities, we also want to talk about it. And I thought, like, this is probably the way and get kicked out, but it wasn't. I saw the CEO nodding. I saw that there was approval on the board, and I was very pleased to see that we're taking a courageous step. But yeah, it takes courage, but I was proud, I must say.
Great, thank you. Then Sandro, when you started with this project, how did you decide which applications you would test first, and how did you select the first ethical hackers to participate in the program?
At first, of course, the service you test, it needs to be an online service. And we also were very clear about that the services we're testing, they need somehow to represent the post from tomorrow, really stand for the digital transformation of Swiss Post. And then what we did, I onboarded almost every participant in while having a coffee, and my motto was, if they not understand after 5 minutes what I was talking about, they were the wrong ones, because obviously we wanted to build this proof of concept. Was supposed to be a showcase, it should be fun, so we only wanted to have people in the program with the right mindset. If you need to explain somebody that finding vulnerabilities is a good thing, and it's not the right person to start a bug bounty program with. And talking about ethical hackers, you know, it's a very strong community in Switzerland and also worldwide. And of course, we tried to select the ones with the best reputation for our first test.
Great, thank you very much. So I move to the audience questions now, and there's so many, so let's hope we get through all of them. So first one, why is bug bounty so much better than an external pen test or internal pen test team for on-demand tests? Is it the skills of the testers? Who wants to take that one?
I think it's two sides of the same coin. So both are necessary. We have not stopped doing penetration testing. In fact, we also look at improving our penetration testing, or really our testing in design and development, with the effects that we see on the bug bounty. But what we learned is that there's so many logical errors in a running program that you never see in development and integration. You only see it when you look at the platform from an outside-in perspective. In penetration, with penetration testing, we see a glass box. Yeah, we know how the system works. We have a special environment where we can test. We don't get the hacker's perspective on our systems. That's only the bug bounty that gets it. But it's like a compensation of both factors. We haven't stopped one, we just added another test to it. Yeah.
Okay, then how did you overcome organizational fears of punishment and blame? These are typically huge obstacles towards transparency and the implementation of a bug bounty program.
I think our organization and society learns about dealing with vulnerabilities. If take another industry, if the aviation industry would shut down a company every time an engine burns on a plane, right? The plane has to go back and has to land as an emergency landing, and then everyone says, well, we have to, this company should never fly again. Probably no company in the world will fly, right? But we have to in aviation, we learned that a burning engine is not the end of the world. It can be fixed, and planes can fly again. And the same is true for cybersecurity in other places. Do we really want to blame victims, or do we want to talk about cyber criminality? Look at the pipeline incident in the US. All of a sudden, we don't talk about have we done enough to protect these pipelines. We talk about the aggressive stance of criminals that exploit vulnerabilities in systems, right? And that's not talking about ethical hacking. That's talking about criminal hacking. So we start to learn that issues can be fixed. Criminal hacking is an offense. But you really, if finding a vulnerability is not the end of the world. And we slowly talk about vulnerabilities not being a reputational damage to a company. I think that's the main game shifter that we want to bring about.
Great. Then Sandro already talked a little bit about it, but there's still a question: how do you make sure you stay on budget? How do you manage budget? Probably that question was also asked prior to your presentation.
Yeah, well, when you do it the first time, you probably have to learn it like many other things in life. But you know, a bug bounty program mainly consists out of 3 variables. That's the scope and the testing conditions, the bounty and the bounty grid, and the hunters. And you just need to adjust those three elements in the perfect way. Looking back to that proof of concept, we had not considered how mature are those systems. We only have said, okay, a system that has a high criticality also gets the maximum bounty, which was a mistake, because when we would have had a closer look, we would have realized, okay, we have critical systems, but obviously their maturity is probably not so high. So we could have gone lower with the bounties and then stuff like that. But it's just experience, I would say. When you see the numbers in average for the proof of concept, we spend 1,200 euro for a bounty in average. I think right now it's 300 or 400 euro. So you learn with time and make your experiences, but that's why it's so important that you need to have like an organization that also allows failing forward, that sees it as a chance, and you don't have that punishing. And what we did in that coffee breaks when we onboarded the people that took part, those were only people that have understood the value of it. So from people that want to start a bug bounty program because they want to gain insights, they will then appreciate when they come back, and there will be no finger pointing, as Marcel explained.
Okay. Then how did you select the ethical hackers at the beginning amongst the many on the platform, and how does that work?
Well, we were very careful, obviously, because we were also worried. We didn't know what to expect, and so we really worked with people that we had connections to. There are other bug bounty programs. So there's another bug bounty program in Switzerland. You know, it's a network, it's a community. You talk with each other, and also when you go on the YesWeHack, you really have the ranking. So there's a ranking and there's a reputation. Talking to Selim, who's the head of customer success at YesWeHack, helped a lot. So also there, you just try it out and learn.
And then for new systems, do you still apply a pen test before starting a bug bounty program? I know for
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we still do. Yep.
Great. And then let me see. How many reports do you have to triage every day in average?
I can answer that one, I think, Sandro, if you want. I'd say in average for the past year and a half, it's near to 2 reports a day, something like that. But as Sandro showed with his graph and charts, it's all about timing, and you have time of the year where you launch new scopes, you launch new programs, you invite more hunters, and well, at that moment, you can receive more reports. And if we talk about the public launch, for the first days of this public program, it was more around 30 reports a day to triage at our level. So that's the answer.
Great, thank you very much, Selim. Then we have here a longer question with a bit of French, so I'm going to try. In the newspaper, it was described, les primes promises s'élèvent entre 50 and 10,000 francs. Indique l'entreprise avant de préciser avoir déjà versé environ 250,000 francs dans le cadre des programmes de bug bounty privés pour 500 vulnerabilities identified. The right number is lower from your speech, or you count one box that has one vulnerability. You showed us a total of 136 bugs that were found. I think that was in your speech, Sandro. I don't know if maybe, do you get the question or?
Yeah, kind of. I'm not the best in French.
Or
but,
maybe Selim or Rodolphe.
No, I think, look, those 136 bugs, that was really within the first 5 weeks. By now, we have 750 bugs that were reported thanks to YesWeHack. Everything that's not valid is being sorted out. But it's hundreds, and we have not even started really expanding the program group wide. So there's a lot of potential, a lot of bugs being found, in my opinion.
Was that Rodolphe? Maybe was the answer, or was the question answered?
Yeah, I think the question is answered. Yeah,
yeah,
it was
answered. Yeah,
focused on one specific program. That's why. Yeah,
exactly.
Great, thank you very much. Then do you have any objectives on the process from first response to vulnerability solved and lessons learned?
Well, in general, as quick as possible. The more critical the error is, the faster we want to fix it. Definitely.
How did you manage to convince everybody to work together without any pain? I'm really impressed about your maturity. Well, I guess we already answered a little bit that question. If there's anything to add.
I don't underestimate the gamification of it. I've seen developers really enjoying what to work with programs like that. And to really see the other side of the equation. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Then thank you, Marcel. How did the IT security team react when you told them that they would start receiving reports from ethical hackers, knowing that Swiss are a bit conservative?
Are we really conservative? Okay. Well, we try to explore new ways. And I think nowadays we're pretty proud of having taken the courage. But yeah, of course there were people who were skeptical at the beginning on what to expect. But that's just a normal just a normal approach. I wouldn't even say it's just typically Swiss.
Right. Then I don't know, maybe this one is for Selim. Once started with bug bounty, is it needed to repeat the tests regularly? I guess pen tests.
If the question is about the pen test, I don't know if I'm the right person
Sandro?
to answer.
Marcel?
We just have it in, especially when it's major releases. We want just to make sure that we start with the same level of maturity into the next phase of bug bounty. And to fix everything we've seen before. Yeah.
Maybe I also can.
Go ahead, Sandro.
Sandro?
Excuse me. Maybe I can also add something. When we had the private bug bounty program, we realized that every bug is calculated into its criticality between 0 and 10. And what we realized that in a private bug bounty program, especially the upper part, so 6 to 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, those are really the bugs that are interesting in a private bug bounty program. And as we proved, we found them over time. And now that we but in a private bug bounty program, there's also very carefully selected, and we only work with the very best hunters. But when you then move those applications to a public program where also less skilled hunters can take place, you realize that you then also find less critical bugs that don't really interest so much in a private bug bounty program. And I think we just don't have enough data yet over time how that will turn out on the long run.
Just another Marcel in the chat is asking, did Marcel say they do 70 pen tests a year? And if
yes.
And will you continue? Is it still needed, that kind of amount?
I think I've seen another question up there when somebody else asked, is bug bounty accepted by auditors? Is it accepted by PCS DSS, for example? No, it isn't yet. Mm-hmm. So there's still also a need to prove things from through pen tests as well. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. But will it be 70 next year? I don't know. Let's find out.
Mm-hmm. What has the company to do before starting a bug bounty program? Is there a certain level of cybersecurity that has to be reached before?
Yes and no. It depends on how much you want to invest. It definitely, generally speaking, it definitely is good to start with a good maturity already in order to make the most of it. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Then let me see. So many questions, which is great. If a public hacker gets to know about a critical knows about a critical vulnerability in a test environment, they can rather not report it and use that knowledge to target an attack to the live environment. How did you mitigate this risk?
It's actually the police mitigating the risk, because we definitely do not like to bring to be attacked from a criminal angle. Let's make that absolutely clear. We bring that to law enforcement.
And how? Sorry, and how do you select and ensure that only trustworthy hackers actually have access to the program? But maybe that's something. YesWeHack.
It's one.
Go on, Sandro, sorry.
It's one of my favorite questions, because what people often, when you say, yeah, ethical hackers, bug bounty, people are scared. Huh? But what you often forget is the risk you has started once you connected your IT system to the internet, and that your that system has vulnerabilities. That's the risk that you're facing. A bug bounty program helps you to identify those risks and brings them down. Every system that's in the internet can be hacked and attacked, and is done so. So with a bug bounty program, this is nothing else as a set of very strict rules. You need to identify, to know your customer identification. YesWeHack will do background checks on you. You have to follow clear rules, only to get a public URL that you could attack anyways. So that a criminal registered in a bug bounty program makes absolutely no sense. Why should they? And then the other possibility, somebody is ethical but finds a very critical bugs and then gets criminal and decides to sell that vulnerability on the black market. In my opinion, shall they? The question should be for us, how do we make tune the bug bounty program, that there's so much competition on it that bugs will be found. So if there are bugs, it's not just one hacker that will find them. They will be reported, and if the one that finds them doesn't report them, it's too bad for him, because the second fastest will then report them, will get paid, and the other one that tries to sell it on the black market gets nothing. And as Marcel said, if they don't comply to the rules, Swiss Post is enforcing legal action.
Great, thank you very much. Does anyone want to add something on that?
Just one small thing regarding the process of selecting hunters and letting them participate in bug bounty on our platform, on YesWeHack platform. They have to go through identity verification. That's a mandatory step to participate in bug bounty programs on our platform. And everything Marcel and Sandro said are also true. There is competition. If one guy finds something and doesn't report it, someone else will find the same thing and report it a bit later. On top of that, those scopes, and in SwissPost case, they are all exposed on the web. Anyone could already test them and find vulnerabilities. So we're providing them a way to report it in a legal manner and to get money out of it. So that's why they do report it as fast as they can.
Great. Then there's a question to Marcel from a risk management ISMS perspective. What importance does this bug bounty and identified vulnerabilities have in comparison with other technical and organizational risks that affect SwissPost?
Well, they just go into the same equation. So as I mentioned, we have a quantified risk management or cyber risk management. We look at the vulnerabilities, but we also look at process vulnerabilities and calculate that into our risk stance. It's part of it.
And then how is YesWeHack different from other vendors out there? Rodolphe.
Do I have to take this one? Okay.
Probably.
Yeah, there are many. First, we are European-based and headquartered. So by default, we comply with all European regulations. And even if you're not based in Europe, it's interesting for any organization because European standards are the strictest when it comes to privacy and data sovereignty. So that's one thing. But I would say that the most important thing is that the emphasis we put on supporting our clients at every step of setting up and then adjusting their programs. And we do that in a very consultative manner. Our support team is made of consultants, just like ceilings, and they enable our clients and they help them to take the side step and to actually set their expectations and understand and formulate what they expect from the model. What would be the success criteria and what resource we should put in place to meet those success criteria. So it's just not about inviting hunters, paying bounties, and magic operates. It's a very gradual process that takes time, and we do take that time with our clients. And I think that's really a key differentiator with the competition.
Thank you, Rodolphe. Maybe, I don't know if SwissPost wants to add something why YesWeHack is different to the others.
Shall I?
Sure.
In my opinion, it's just the quality standard they have. When you compare YesWeHack to American competitors, it's from a cultural perspective very much closer to Swiss and to the standards we have here, just regarding to quality. When you also measure the noise ratio, so how many bugs are submitted that are not valid, there's a huge difference between YesWeHack and other competitors. And then there are the European market leader. There is no comparable service, in my opinion, because as you know, data protection and data laws are very strict. And those were some of the reasons why they won in the evaluation we did.
Then what is the next step forward in the bug bounty program? You will eventually fix the bugs and will not have so many reports. Are you thinking of changing the scope?
The latter.
Yeah.
Changing the scope. Yep.
Okay. Any? Go ahead, Sandro.
I didn't want to be too quick. I mean, Marcel declared that all the relevant digital products should be in the scope of the program, and in my opinion, that should be the goal of every bug bounty program. So it's not just a one shot; it's a continuous thing. But then you really want to open the scope. And the ultimate goal of every bug bounty program should be that all relevant IT systems run in such a program. But as you can imagine, that just takes time, and also new strategies. The level we reach now, we're realizing if we want to continue like that with onboarding service by service, it will take too long. So we're currently talking about more progressive ways on how to move on.
Thank you. Then Marcel, kudos for having the courage. What would you say is the maturity level in Switzerland and neighboring countries for ethical hacking? Are your peers following the same path, or are you special?
I don't think we're special. I see other companies moving into this direction. We just happen to be among the pioneers, but there's others that follow. And we're thankful for that. We don't believe that we need to be the only ones doing that.
And maybe after this webinar, there will be some more.
Hopefully.
Then a question to YesWeHack. When Swiss Post opened the bug bounty to the public, how many vulnerability submissions did you receive during the first week? And among them, what was the percentage of TP after triage?
I think I partly answered that question a bit earlier. It was something like 30 reports-ish a day for the very first days of this public campaign. I won't communicate on the ratio of valid findings, how many are triaged, have ongoing fixes and everything. But yeah, it's about 100 during the first week, and reports keep coming in, and it should be the same for the weeks and months to come until the next moves and extension of the scope, maybe.
Then do you include vuln scanners in the build pipeline and in your clusters for scanning containers and nodes? Who can answer that one? Do you include vuln scanners in the build pipeline and in your clusters for scanning containers and nodes?
Yes, there's tools that we have included into our development pipeline. And in fact, our developers are looking back over the bugs that we found in the bug bounty program and ask themselves, why haven't we found them in our testing? So we see that there's a loop closing in our development department as well. It's actually the gamification we talk about, right? A bit.
Absolutely.
And
then Sandro,
if I may add something based on previous discussions we had with Swiss Post team. And I think Sandro mentioned the whole security champions you have that are implicated in this bug bounty journey. And what came out of this is that you're on top of course, tooling and tools that you can use to prevent vulnerabilities. There is also a lot of knowledge sharing between teams that manages the scopes that are tested through the bug bounty with other security champions that cover other scopes and other assets, and they share a lot of information, and from that they gain a lot of expertise that they can use on other scopes that are not actually tested in the bug bounty programs. I think it was worth mentioning as well. Yeah.
Thank you, Selim, for your add-on. Then there's a question to Sandro. How did you determine the scope, systems/programs of your first bug bounty?
Yeah, it was really about finding the right people that with the right mindset that want to contribute. But as you go on, of course, it's about the risk assessment. Marcel showed that risk map that we use for all products. So products that are especially relevant out of a risk perspective, or maybe they are in public interest, or also something that's very important, just stuff that's cool for the hackers. So technology-wise, so we try to find a good mix between all those variables.
Great. Then how do you deal with duplicate findings that have not been remediated at the moment of discovery?
Simple question, simple answer. We close them as duplicates. It's part of the bug bounty life, and each and every bounty hunter knows about it. If you're the second one or the third one to report something, well, it's a duplicate. You're not rewarded, and maybe you will be luckier next time and faster.
Great. Then once restrictions are weighed, do you plan a live bug bounty program, invited maybe in Switzerland? Yeah, that hackers can come together.
like a hackathon.
Far away. No plans yet, I guess.
Not yet, but a good idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're still many restrictions. So, as your solution matures, it becomes harder to claim a bounty. This will make less mature solutions more attractive to rational researchers. How do you keep your solution interesting to top researchers, or is this even a problem?
Well, not by introducing new bugs to make them more interesting. Maybe it takes longer time to find critical errors. Maybe there are still critical errors in finding in programs. Who knows?
Then
I think from a general standpoint, it's all about putting all the odds on your side to make sure that if there is something critical to find, someone will find it eventually. And it's about this continuous improvement of the programs, the way it is presented, the bounty grid that is offered, all those different levers that you can play with to make sure to attract anyone who has something valuable to provide.
Building on Selim, software is never finished, right? We continue to develop our programs, so eventually the scope by itself changes over time.
Great. So we have very little time left and still a few questions. I won't be able to take them all, but I want to try to still fiddle in a few. So I just ask you to try to answer them as short as possible, but as much as needed. So how do you know that your program is good or not yet? Do you have goals that could be measured? Probably YesWeHack, I would say.
Probably Sandro, I would say, no?
Well, okay, Sandro.
maybe all of us. Look, a good bug bounty program is one that gives you insights, and there are two different ways of insights. One is you find critical vulnerabilities, or you don't find and you raise the bounty, and you don't have vulnerabilities and you raise the hunters or the bounty, and that gives you just some feeling of the maturity. So either you receive bounties or you add more hunters, more bounties, and the probability that there are critical bugs, it's just getting down almost to zero.
Then do you only use bug bounty programs on systems/services that are released, or do you allow the bug bounty testers to connect your test environment to test before release?
There have been cases where we used an incubator on integration platforms.
Then how do you determine the best amount for the bounties? I've got the impression that this is kind of a rogue factor one cannot easily calculate. On the other hand, you want the hunters to get motivated. On the other hand, you have to stay on budgets. For Selim, maybe? I don't know.
I could answer this one. It's pretty hard to find the right balance. And that's where we also provide guidance based on our experience with all the clients we accompany on the platform. So yeah, it sums up pretty well the equation, the question, the way it was asked. So it's all about motivation, attractiveness for the hunters, and at the same time managing your budget and making sure that you don't spend too much for a given topic, a given program, considering that your budget is not unlimited.
Thank you very much, Selim, Rodolphe, Marcel, and Sandro. I will close the Q&A now. I see there's a lot of interest, but they can also get in touch with you. We'll also share the contact at the very end of the webinar. Thank you very much for participating out there, but I still want to ask you, we have another survey that we can actually put on live now, so you can also participate in another survey. And then, yeah, people are also saying congratulations, great project, and they really thought it was a highly interesting session. Thank you to the panelists and so forth. So before we close, I'd like to ask also a last word of wisdom. So Marcel, maybe just to close, what are your recommendations to other CISOs when considering a move forward with crowdsourced security?
Remember, it takes courage, but it's worth it.
That was a very short answer. Sandro, your takeaway and recommendation to other organizations considering a move forward with crowdsourced security. And before you answer, I just see the survey is up now live, so you can participate in that survey as well. So Sandro, your takeaway.
Look, the only mistake you can make with the bug bounty program is to over debate and not start. The most important thing is just to start ASAP, get your experience, and just go from there.
Thank you very much. And over to you, Rodolphe, for a final thought.
Yeah, thanks very much, Tanya. Thanks so much to Marcel and Sandro for their very open, lively, and substantial briefing. And thanks to the audience for the relevant questions. Yeah, just a very quick add-on. We saw through the Swiss Post experience that bug bounty has a potential on the long run to be a transformation, or even a disruption. I think Sandro said it was a game changer. But based on our daily experience, we also see it, and we would see, most of the time, we see it more like an improvement of existing practices rather than the disruption. And an improvement that leverage new tools like our platform. And as I said, it's a very gradual process that each organization can adapt to its own context, its own requirements, agility, maturity, with obviously our help at every step. And so if, based on what we discussed today, any of the attendees have questions about how we can help them in that process and how we could help them, to start a crowdsourced security initiative, just please reach out.
Great, thank you very much, Rodolphe. And as you said, everyone out there, you can reach out. We'll share the contact details when we close the session today, which is actually right now. I would just like to thank all of our speakers, Sandro, Marcel, Rodolphe, and Selim, for sharing. It was really a pleasure. It was also a pleasure having you participating, sending all your questions. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you next time. Wish you a good week ahead, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.